We get this question all the time. How do we get the more complex, big, and technical moves that we want to get with our fitness? And my answer is pretty simple. We have to start with the smaller, little, less complex movements first. But that question doesn't always, or that answer doesn't always sit well with a lot of people. So I reference it like this. Whenever we're kids, we have to crawl before we walk, before we run. When we think about that in terms of fitness, let's say a muscle up. We have to learn how to do a ring row, then a ring swing, ring dips before we can actually get up to doing ring muscle ups. So we have to think about those little pieces first to be able to build to the big ones, right? So if we think about the open, or we think about competitions, or we think about other people in our gym, right? We see them doing these movements, and that makes us want to do those, and that's great. It gives us motivation. However, what that does is that makes us want to get those movements faster. Like, we have to be able to do a squat snatch with 205 pounds before my friend does, or before this competition. We set these deadlines on ourselves without laying the proper steps to get there first. So what we have to do is we have to think about not necessarily being able to do that movement specifically, or that RX type of movement specifically first. We want to think about getting all the proper steps to get there first. So the downside to wanting to get our RX moves as fast as possible is that then leaves holes and has us skipping fundamental skills which lead to those bigger ones. For example, like I was saying before, if we're trying to do a ring muscle up, or we're trying to get to a ring or a bar muscle up, so what do? We just get on the bar, we get on the rings, and we practice flinging ourselves up over the bar. Even if it's a chicken wing, even if it's just getting ourselves on top of the rings, we think it's a success, and it might be a success if that was our goal, was just to get the movement. But then we all know what happens. We get that movement, and then what do? We want to get better at it. We want to get stronger within the movement. We want to have more efficiency, more technique within that movement. But if we didn't start off with building that in as our practice leading into that movement, what are we going to end up having to do? Now we got to end up going back through and relearning how to have proper technique holding a ring dip, proper technique on how to ring swing without breaking in your body and being less efficient. So what I want you guys to think about is building those into your progressions, into your bigger movements, right? Start with ring swings, start with practicing a SOTS press if that's your deal, if you want to work on your snatch, right? Whatever technical movement it might be, even if it's a handstand walk, right? Just getting up and practicing handstand walking, yeah, that's gonna help you practice that. But if you break that movement down into smaller pieces, it's only gonna help you get there better, faster, and by the time you get that movement, now you're not gonna have to go back and relearn all those little fundamental movements that you didn't build into your practice, into your progress for that bigger movement. The next thing that's gonna help you guys get these bigger, more technical movements is to put focus in every little opportunity you have. For example, if your goal is to get a prettier, more technical, heavier squat snatch, which I know is harder for a lot of people, especially with limited mobility, what we want to think about is each little part of the movement, from when we approach the bar, to when we pick the bar up, to as we're doing the movement, to then finally setting that bar back on the floor. Each time you touch the bar, or each time you're around the bar, is an opportunity to get better. A specific example is, let's say you're working on hang snatches, hang squat, hang power snatches, all right? A lot of people always think that that movement starts when the bar gets to their hips. Then they go for that hinge forward, and then they finally snatch the bar above their head. However, what you see a lot of times is people don't pick up the bar the same way on a hang snatch, and as the same way they would if they were going to do a regular squat snatch, right, where the bar is coming from the ground. What we want to think about is even just picking that bar up from the ground, bringing it up to our hips, that's an opportunity to get better, even though it doesn't necessarily count for the movement, right? It's not part of the movement that we look at. But even focusing on the technique of making sure our body's in a really good position, that's just a better way to grease the groove of technical movements, right? We have to continue to grease that groove to make our movement patterns better. They always say that it takes about 10,000 hours of practice to build a skill, or something like that. I might have butchered it, but it takes about 10,000 hours or 10,000 attempts to build that skill. So think about that. If you're always doing a hang snatch, or you're always doing a hang clean, and you're missing that opportunity to get better with that hang, that's just an opportunity you're losing to add into those 10,000 hours or the 10,000 steps. So walk before you run, crawl before you walk. Build all those little pieces together in your movement. Take the time to practice. It might not seem like much, and it might seem like you're going out of your way to spend extra time to do little things, but the little things add up to big things.